Alrighty, welcome back everyone. It is LaughNgamez here. I'm back with another Starcraft 2 1 versus 1 cast. We have got ourselves what should be a good one here today. We're on the map Crimson Court. And in the bottom left, we have got one of the greatest Korean Terran players of all time. It is ByuN. ByuN, some of the best micro in the world, and so good at it, in fact, that his wrists explode. And in the top right, we have got Astrea, probably one of the players that consistently gives us the funnest games to watch. Astrea is a wild card. He's a crazy cowboy Protoss player, a true American, and he often has really great games against incredibly good players and great series, as a matter of fact. So I see an Astrea versus some top level player game like ByuN, for example, and I just go, it's gonna be good. And so, ladies and gentlemen, before we get too far into this one, make sure to go ahead and click that like button if you haven't already. I know I usually post bot videos on this channel, but I do enjoy casting these pro matches, and clicking that like button goes a long way to getting us to keeping the channel going there. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you had for breakfast or what your favorite race is. Anything like that. Can be some controversial take, just for the engagement. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Join the Discord, which is linked down below. And yeah, on with the show, as we've got double Reapers on the way here for ByuN. This is a bit of a cheeky cheese opening. We did see Astrea find it with his probe, however, ByuN, he didn't really proxy this super far or anything like that. He just placed that proxy on his side of the map, so to try and catch Astrea off guard, but Astrea had a good scout. Not so early that he couldn't do anything about it, but now Astrea knows that he's going to be going up against multiple Reapers, most likely. In fact, I think it's pretty much certain, because he didn't see any tech labs start to build Marauders, so the Stalker's on the way out. It's going to start shooting this Reaper and chase it away. Not a single probe has been lost, and we're already seeing that shield battery be built for Astrea. He just says, nope, I'm not dealing with Reapers killing all my probes. I'm gonna invest in that battery. It's 100 minerals, but 100 minerals probably well spent. Behind this, ByuN has got to float those barracks back. Not very far, though. He's getting up his command center, so just a slight delay on that. And we've actually got Astrea sending out another probe specifically to look to see if these racks have landed or what they're up to. He sees they are now floating back into the main base. The Reapers are getting pushed on out by Astrea. I'm just going to up the sound a tiny, tiny bit here. It's just very quiet on my end, so maybe not. It's the sound, trying to have balanced sound levels with these casts is a battle that will never end. Now, we do have Astrea. His probe somehow made it out on the map, made it out across the map when there's Reapers out, just to start harassing this one SCV. So you gotta love it for Astrea. Those style points. He knows the probe's gonna die, but he did draw ByuN's attention a little bit. Behind this, ByuN is going for a Widow Mine drop. I'll say that's a bit of a risky move. We'll see how well it's gonna work out for him. He does have the 2 racks done already, so he's got Stim coming out behind this. So I imagine he's just gonna go into like a Medivac Marine push at some point in this game to follow this up. Use the mines to potentially get big shots off, kill a Stalker or 2, or to go for a drop and into the main or the natural base. Astrea has yet to get up a 3rd base. He's being very patient. Very smart of him to do that, as he knows ByuN is looking to get some damage done. Patience pays off in a lot of these games, as that Robo is going to allow him to get out a Colossus, which will absolutely destroy these Marines, or should do, at least. Looks like we had a Widowmine fire on something. I must have missed that. ByuN has only got out 7 Marines for now, though, so not much there. These Widowmines are going to be picked up into the Medivac. I'll say it's a little bit predictable for ByuN to go for this build. But, you know, He's allowed to try whatever he likes. And this Immortal and Stalker are going to push back those Reapers. I imagine Astrea should be expecting something like this. Like, you defended the Terran's initial cheese. You know that, like, you know your opponent's going to be looking for some damage. We are seeing ByuN attack these rocks with the Reapers. That's going to be slow. The Widowmines are going to be getting dropped on in. Is it towards the natural or the main base? Looks like the natural. Astrea does see this, though. He's pulling the probes away. Sacrificial probes take one for the team. The Colossus kills off one of them. The Reapers jump into the main base to try and find some damage, but Astrea has got a solid defense so far. One of those Reapers goes down, and then Astrea is just well on his way towards a third base. Behind this, it looks like ByuN isn't really chilling too much. He's just making tanks, getting out Marauders now, combat shield +1. Looks like this Liberator is going to try and harass. That Medivac has got one of the Widowmines in it, but it took some damage, so that's going to be vulnerable. Astrea is just macroing up. We'll see if this Liberator gets too much work done. ByuN is going to see the timing on this third base and think, well, that's not the fastest third in the world. At the same time, though, it's not like he's got his own third, so ByuN will be pressured to get some damage done. He's even investing in another barracks, probably going to be getting up, well, that's his third anyway, on the way now, so we'll see if he gets up his fourth and fifth, or whether he will throw up a third command center prior to those. That's going to be an important tell to see the way the game's going. Astrea's moving out with his Colossus, with his Stalkers, and Sentries being very important. They can drop force fields if need be. It looks like the Widowmine gets dropped once again. Unburrow by ByuN to try and bait those probes back in for a big shot. That does get cleaned up. It looks like the Medivac did make it out. So that's nice for ByuN. Keeping the Medivac is really important for the Terrans, because Protoss are really good at defending Widowmine drops these days, and it can almost seem like you're just throwing money away, but as long as you keep the Medivac alive, it's not too bad for the Terrans. Behind this, ByuN is still just powering on up. He's getting up that third command center on the way now. He's got out a decent siege tank count, getting out a couple of extra racks, but Astrea has been left unattended for quite a while. He's a Protoss player that's now investing in a Dark Shrine for some harassment, getting up +1 charge. He's had Colossus tech for quite a while, although he's only made 2 Colossus. We'll see if he makes a third soon enough. The Protoss player, though, can start a 4th base potentially soon, and he is indeed sending a probe down here. So is this going to be a 4th base probe? I wouldn't have been surprised if he expanded to a more forward location, but I guess Astrea may feel that ByuN is going to be more focused on a big push towards the front, so a fringe base could do alright. But as I say that, this base gets dropped. ByuN has got units really darn close to it, and he may actually just be able to get a kill, at the very least to cancel. If he goes towards that base, he's going to see that probe running on over there. He's going to scan on in towards the third base, which is mining, but it's very, very vulnerable. Astrea has to recall to defend against this. There's the recall. Stalkers can potentially blink after this, but I think ByuN's reaction was good enough, so he gets 7 workers. The Liberator goes into the main base while this is going on, bringing that worker kill count much, much higher. The Liberator can then just go back behind to that dead airspace, so all in all, ByuN does get some good damage done. Astrea at least has his 4th Nexus on the way, but all of a sudden we take a look, that Terran's already got his 4th command center going on. ByuN is pivoting this into a macro game. I think we're going to see a Ghost Academy that's already done, so we should see Ghosts start to get made. And now let's see, 2-1 is on the way for Astrea, so he's at least got a bit of an upgrade lead building, as the Terran player has yet to get up his armory. That's just building now. The scan does see the Marauders and the Marines. And, oh, here's a cool move by Astrea. At some point, he threw down a pylon. He can warp in beside that mineral line. A Prism's going to try and go in with a couple more DTs. ByuN is building a turret. Can the DTs land? No, they can't. At least one will get into the third base, but that was a really good shutdown by ByuN. He should be able to stim on in, scan to kill this DT. Astrea doesn't even pull it out of the scan range. A couple more DTs are moving in on the front. They see this base. They may be able to delay it. Instead, I think he's just going for a scan bait. So Astrea gets a little bit of damage done. Not too much, though. So the Protoss and the Terran player today are just having a macro game. They've poked each other a little bit, but all in all, neither has got a killing blow. And as a result, they're both just building up. And in a lot of TVP matchups, you'd say this favors the Terran, because Terran late game has been really scary lately. The Terrans have got so good at dealing with disruptors, it kind of negated how Protoss players play the matchup. They'd always go Colossus into disruptors, but now all of a sudden we see that Terrans like can deal with disruptors seemingly no matter how many there is. They're still very good units, but we don't see those huge shots as often as we'd like. And that's really just because Terran players engage so rapidly these days. They don't just group their army up into one big ball. They don't just sit idly with their troops. They're always moving. We're seeing ByuN poke out with his army right now. I'm not sure he's going for a full-blown attack, but he's definitely pushing into Astrea's side of the map. Scan will kill that DT. Astrea is trying to set up good engagement, but he's got to be careful. His army is quite a glass cannon. We see EMPs hit one or two of the sentries, but there is still enough to drop down force fields to keep this army back, because I think ByuN does realize that that army for the Protoss is super duper weak. Despite the attack upgrade lead, Astrea needs to bulk that up a little bit. We do see a big DT warping. We've actually had probes mine out this location. ByuN sees this, but he's going to see the mass zealots running in towards his base. A cool move by Astrea. This is why I love watching the guy play, but he kind of did just open up the attack path from his 4th to ByuN's 3rd. I don't know if that's the right call or not, but Astrea is getting up a 5th base. He's only got he's actually got 2 robos out now. I'll say that's very important, because he's going to need a lot of those high-tech units and be able to replace them if he loses them. He's getting out 3-2 upgrades. That's important to keep chrono boosting those out. Upgrades will actually be in ByuN's favor, I think, or they'll be even for a second here. Astrea may have a bit of a timing window. He's got 2-2, ByuN's on 1-1, so the Protoss comes on in. He's got just a ridiculous amount of zealots, 27 zealots. The disruptors are getting some nice shots off. There's 1, there's 2. I'm not sure it's still enough, but we do see these zealots staying alive a lot longer than ByuN would like. The Vikings dealt with the Colossus no problem, but Astrea does still have to back out there. He's warped in a lot of zealots to reinforce this. That upgrade lead is gone, though, so those zealots are going to go down a lot easier than they did previously. Now, let's take a look here. ByuN behind this, he's kept it cool. He's just macroing up. He's got an extra command center done, so he can drop lots of mules with double orbitals morphing. And so that's really, really nice for the Terran. ByuN, he's hitting his stride. This is why Protoss kind of fear Terran in the late game. We saw Astrea try and break the Terran, but ByuN held on. And now Astrea's got to be thinking, oh gosh, I'm going to have to deal with 5 Marauders being produced at a time, 3 Liberators. And the Protoss is like, I can warp in some more Zealots. I've already got 27, though. How many of these do I need? ByuN's already setting up these Liberators. He's got a tank behind that, double Widow Mines to guard this right flank. That's going to be tough for the Protoss to break through. Astrea's going to try it, though. That seems a little bit mad. He doesn't even have an Observer with this. So the mines, well, they'll actually be cleaned up because there's no drilling claws, I suppose. Disruptors are zoning this out, but I don't know if there's enough Protoss here. Astrea is kind of using the choke point to some success, but he's got to back on out, and ByuN just knows he can stim after this army. He targets down the Disruptor, but not in time, so it does get a nice connection. And so that was a pretty okay trade for Astrea. Still, he seems a little bit lost, so we're seeing the Protoss player. He's thrown up a fleet beacon, and that's going to allow him to potentially make Carriers, Tempest, one of the better techs for Protoss in the late game. You kind of got to go towards that. The Mothership is a nice addition with the potential for Cloak, Time Warp, that's huge. Still, though, ByuN's army is terrifying for Astrea. We see the Protoss player, he is getting up more bases, but he doesn't have some ginormous economic lead on ByuN. In fact, the economies are quite even this game, and that does make playing with lots of gateway units like Astrea is doing scary. I'd love to see him just get up like another couple of Mortals or something. Protoss don't go for Psystorm these days too often against Terrans, just because Terrans always go for Ghost. If the game goes more than 10-15 minutes, you're going to see Ghosts from the Terran most likely, despite the changes they've had. Now Astrea is going for a cool move. He's going for a big Zealot run by. He actually runs into the majority of ByuN's force, well, a good chunk of it. Meanwhile, he's attacking with Disruptors on the right side. He does get a good Disruptor shot. It's a lot of work, though, all in all, for what is just a few Marauders in one shot. It's like, yeah, that's really good value, but at the same time, he needs to get a lot more done than that, because he knows that if he takes one bad fight, ByuN will just collapse on top of him. 3-3 bio is no joke. With EMPs, the Protoss army just gets so soft. I know there's been a lot of talk about how Protoss is weak against Terran, whether we need to see EMP get nerfed. I think I'm getting towards the point that I'd be okay to potentially see a bit of shield versus HP swap as a simple change to maybe make it so that, say, Stalkers have 90 HP instead of 70. 90 HP and 70 shields instead of 80-80. That would reduce the effectiveness of EMP by a little bit. I think it doesn't necessarily have to be Stalkers. It could be other Protoss units. We are seeing Disruptor shots go on out. I think that would be a nice specific way to nerf Terran's EMP if need be. I mean, the jury is still out on that one a little bit. I think Protoss may need a little bit of a change to help them in the late game, though. And we do see Stalkers move forward. They take care of those. They take care of those Liberators, which is nice. ByuN is producing lots and lots of those. We see Astrea try and get a Prism in. That's big dreaming, seeing as how there's turrets, Liberators, Vikings, and Ghosts on guard. It's difficult. It's basically impossible to get an attack off against the Terran, unless, as the Protoss, you've pulled them out of position somehow. If ByuN is just sitting at home waiting for your attacks, he will sit all day, and that's exactly what we're seeing as he sets up Liberators, Planetaries. And there was a time that Protoss players would just poke on in with Disruptors, force the Terran into a really bad engagement, but Terrans have got way better at dealing with those Disruptors. Like, Astrea is afraid to poke forward because he knows if he eats some EMPs like this, and then ByuN dodges a couple Disruptor shots, he can just bleed off so many units. We did see 6 SCVs go down there, that's nice, but ByuN may honestly not replace those since he's going to have some Mad Mule money. The Terran player has pretty much taken his half of the map. -1 base. This base is still up for grabs. If Astrea can take that, that would be nice for him. And we're seeing an incredible amount of passiveness between these two players. Astrea, he's afraid. He doesn't know what to do. We see him throwing his money into cannons and batteries, which is something I honestly don't mind, as it does give you a bit of a wall to hold on. EMP and 3-3 Marauders deal with that pretty easily, though. We've seen Astrea, he is actually looking to push on in right now, utilizing the Disruptors, trying to take a good fight. Lots of supply has been lost, though, and all in all, the trades weren't nothing amazing. Looks like that Marauder is going to get that one Disruptor. That hurts Astrea. He's trying with the Mothership. He's going for a big recall play like a madman. Going to recall the entire Protoss army into ByuN's base. Now, this is such a risky play. Astrea doesn't have a Warp Prism with this either, by the way. So what you see is what you get for his army, and this is the problem. The Liberators for ByuN are getting some nice shots off the Disruptors at the same time, though, using the Terran SimCity against his opponent, but we do see the Liberators, they just start shooting too much. I think Astrea may have wanted to try and blink on top of those, but he didn't. 15 SCVs went down in that, but the Protoss, he lost a lot of supply. I think if Astrea blinked his Stalkers right, he could have dealt with those Liberators and maybe stayed in there a little bit more. He was scared, though. We are seeing the Protoss regroup. Astrea playing with mass Stalkers against a Terran. It seems a little ludicrous, but with the few Disruptors to support, he can prevent himself from being pounced upon. It's a really nice move by the Protoss. He did just wipe out those 2 bases with the Blink Stalkers. ByuN may repair this one, and it's got to be real darn quick. I don't think it's going to happen, though. So there's 400 minerals lost for the Terran. ByuN has got to replace a lot of supply. Resources lost-wise, this game is still incredibly close, though. Astrea barely takes the lead with those big pickoffs, ahead by 1k resources. That's nothing. We're now seeing ByuN push on in, try and use his advantage, his strong Ghost army, the Liberators, to zone out this Terran force. We see the advanced ballistics, meaning it's really hard for the Protoss to engage. As a result, we see Astrea, he just sacks the space. It looks like he's going to be planning for a counterattack. And rightfully so, because you can't fight this Terran army with 31 Blink Stalkers and 11 Zealots. You can take trades if you find portions of the Terran army, but like this right here, this is questionable. He's got to avoid that main Terran force. And we do see Astrea back off. He is throwing up an expansion to the top left. I'm glad to see that. Hopefully we see some static defense get thrown down there to lock that location. There's the first pylon. You gotta wait the 18 seconds before you can spam down those cannons as the Protoss, though, because you need the pylon up. And let's see here, in go Stalkers and Zealots. A nice positional move by Astrea, does catch some of those inverted Liberators. The Liberators, of course, they do take their due, though, as they get some shots off, kill a couple of Protoss units, and there we see ByuN go for a nice counterattack. No cannons were up there, so that base gets shut down. Astrea has to replace this location. We're seeing bases for bases, and all of a sudden the Protoss is behind in the resources lost. I'm not sure what Astrea has got to do here in order to come back in this game. Not come back. He's not really too far behind, but in order to gain control of this match, he does go for a recall to try and shut down this counterattack by ByuN. He's unsure if he has enough Stalkers, so he blinks forward anyway, tries to get the medibacks. He will force ByuN back. The EMPs really soften up the Stalkers, and I think that is where I'd like to see a potential change. Make it so Stalkers have 90 HP and 70 shields. That would reduce EMP's effectiveness on them just a little bit. I think that would be reasonable. And let's see here. Astrea, he's still holding this cannon wall. There's still plenty of resources to mine on both sides of the map. ByuN will want to resecure this location. The DT's going to be a nuisance, though, just parking itself here. Meanwhile, we're seeing those disruptors toss out their Novas. The Protoss army is still so soft compared to what ByuN has. ByuN also has 14 less workers than Astrea, which means he's going to have higher army supply. And we are seeing ByuN push towards the top left. I expected him to take this base to the right. Astrea, he's coming back on in. He's going to try and do another recall play like he did before, and this will completely catch ByuN out of position once again. He does recall underneath some disruptors. Stalkers can take care of those, though. Although they're taking their sweet time to do it, there's just so much Terran as ByuN responds in time, and that play was just an expensive move by Astrea. This is where we see the Protoss, though, try and get moves against the Terran. Astrea, though, he's not paying attention for a second. ByuN just dives on top of his disruptors, and it's just a tough engagement because you can toss out more Novas as Astrea, but then you can't retreat with any of those disruptors, and then you're like, do my ground units stay and die with them or not? And so now we're seeing Astrea invest in some Tempest. These are the thing that could potentially change the game a little bit. A Psystorm catches some of the Terran army. These batteries are trying to hold on. Is there a battery overcharge for Astrea? It is off cooldown, so I think he should be popping that, or he should have, to help those cannons out. He's getting attacked on multiple fronts, though. As ByuN pushes towards the right, he pushed towards the north and was repelled. Astrea may want to try and get a counter blow going off to take down this Terran base with the Tempest as an answer to the Liberators. That's nice. ByuN may add in some more Vikings or just Marines and Ghosts. We'll see if Astrea can utilize the zoning power of these Tempest or not. Disruptor Nova does go out. It doesn't quite get the connection, though. ByuN has got to do a lot of work to micro. I know I'm really talking about the struggles of Protoss in this game, but at the same time, ByuN is just putting in so much work to be microing all over the place. He's attacking all over the place. He's hit these bases, multiple locations all the time, forces a recall from Astrea once again, and the Terran player, he has been doing a great job of avoiding those Disruptor Novas. I know I said, like, oh, Disruptors, they're not amazing against Terran these days. That's because the Terrans are so darn good at the game and dealing with Disruptors compared to how they used to be. And now we're seeing ByuN, he invested in mass turrets to help zone out those Tempests to prevent Astrea from just poking in as easily, making him go through all of these turrets before he can start picking off units. ByuN's got a remax on his supply, though he is down a little bit. I mean, ahead on army supply technically, but 11 of those Marines and Vikings and Ghosts are in production, so Astrea won't actually be up on supply till then. A Snipe catches a High Templar. That's really nice. We're going to see ByuN probably looking for some EMPs on this High Templar. He gets the connection. That's going to make Astrea pause because he was relying on those Tempests to get some nice Psystorms. Or on those High Templar, pardon me. We actually see ByuN move forward. A bit of a bold move, seeing as how there is a battery overcharge pop. Can heal up these units, undo the damage of the EMP. We're seeing a Disruptor go out. That's a nice connection for the Protoss. And I think Astrea is playing this pretty darn well. The Liberators are preventing Astrea from stepping forward. The Tempest are getting shots while this is going on, but all of a sudden we do see the Protoss kind of run out of muscle to buffer against this Terran force, and it's just such a wrecking ball when the Protoss runs out of batteries and cannons. I mean, the Tempest, they aren't good against Marines. They're literally a specialty tool for picking off Liberators. and maybe Medivacs too. A big Zealot run by goes down from Astrea while this chaos is going on. If we take a look at the money, ByuN is pretty darn broke. Astrea has got mainly minerals in the bank, so we may see a lot more Zealots in the future. The Protoss has started to mine from this rich Vespene geyser. That's important. Astrea is getting this base up to the bottom right. I want to see 1,000,000 cannons be built here as soon as Astrea can. Of course, he's busy microing those disruptors on the front. All the while, ByuN, he's trying to deal with these Zealots and DTs in his main base. We'll see how this game evens out. Astrea does buy himself a minute, but ByuN, I mean, he did take out one of those Protoss bases. Not the most important one, but we're getting to the point in the game that 25 minutes in, every little base matters. We even see Astrea retake this base that's partly mined out. He has not started up the cannons yet, though. And the timing on static defense is so important in games like this because it could save this base. ByuN is going to be eyeing this up. I'm sad that Astrea, he transferred probes to this base, but he has not started that static defense. He's going to reposition his army, and man, oh man, his army is getting crazy. We're seeing not just a couple Tempests from Astrea, we're seeing a lot. And the idea from this is to force ByuN into Vikings, into Marines, so then units like Disruptors and Stalkers can actually be okay. We're actually seeing the Protoss step on down a little bit offensively to take this base, and we'll see if ByuN can keep the Protoss back. The Terran really is quite broke. He's been able to remax, but it was slow. Astrea still has a decent bank to his name. We're now seeing some more cannons get up. I actually want to see more cannons in this. Well, yeah, I mean, it depends how many minerals are at this base. Maybe, yeah, I think Astrea is right. There's actually not that many minerals left there, although the gas is important. We're seeing Tempest help zone out the Liberators as ByuN has had to invest in a lot of Vikings to counteract these Tempests. We see an EMP softening those Tempest up. They are so darn weak these days. They've only got 200 HP, 100 shields. For reference, guys, Tempest used to have something like 300 HP, 200 shields. It was just nuts how strong they were. They're a lot faster now, way, way faster, so they're more entertaining to watch, but when they try and fill the old role, they do look a little bit soft. We see an amazing feedback Psystorm combo softening up ByuN's army. He's just got to go home to heal up those units. Astrea, that was actually such a good Psystorm. I think that hit like most of ByuN's army. The DT now sees this force, so ByuN's going to have to scan or EMP to kill that. He does just that. That does let the Protoss know where he is, though. Astrea's doing a great job splitting his army. And things do start to look a little bit better for the Protoss, I'll say. Not to overlook this, is that army supplies are even. Astrea is down on probes compared to what he used to be, which means he's got a much bigger force. Because I was shocked to see that he's got this much Protoss over here, but then still a significant force towards the north. ByuN's making a mad dash through this northern base, but Stalkers and Zealots will intercept that. SCVs transferring are going to die. That was a bit hopeful for ByuN, so he's just going to lose that command center. The Terran knows that he's getting desperate for cash. He's really got this one base mining, and that's really it. As a matter of fact, like, ByuN needs another location up soon, or he needs to take a game-winning fight or to take out Astrea's bases. The Protoss taking this location is really nice. The Liberator is moving out to harass. I really like this harassment from ByuN. The Liberator can get a lot of value done. It really takes a lot of focus from your opponent to respond to a Liberator. You got to warp in Stalkers or recall. You got a micro around that Liberation Zone, or your Stalkers will just die. This is going to delay Astrea on mining out this base. So all in all, a great move by the Terran players. Stalkers do come forward all the while. This is kind of pulling the Protoss's attention back, so Astrea retreats his whole army. ByuN says, I'm going to build a command center here to deal with it. Astrea, though, is taking this base, and I am glad to see this much static defense getting built. Like, static defense is so important. That probe is being a jerk, blocking the batteries. Astrea gets frustrated. It's like, oh man. Now he has to re-queue those up. He just clicks so darn fast. All the while, Astrea trying to micro on the top right. He's got to be careful not to lose his army, though. It's that same situation. If ByuN lands a few good EMP, dodges a few disruptors, that'll be nice for him. The Terran's ground army is shrinking, though, as ByuN invests more and more supply in Vikings to counter the Tempest. The Protoss player is now attacking on in, realizing how vulnerable his opponent is. We do see Ghosts actually scare back Stalkers and Zealots, though. That's a nice play. The Terran may want to nuke on these cannons, but of course they'll reveal the Ghost. So ByuN may have a hard time breaking this, and this is the double-edged sword of a Terran player switching into Vikings. ByuN has got a lot of bio still, but he'd have a lot more if he didn't have 20 Vikings out. And so that is actually really nice for Astrea that ByuN is fighting with that lesser amount of supply. That's where Tempest gets some more of their value too. This is still such a scary Terran army. 2 Disruptor Novas go out to try and zone this out. ByuN is going for the dive. He dodges. Well, he runs through Psystorm, but picks off the Disruptors. So the bio gets softened up a lot, but I don't know if there's enough on the ground, though, still for Astrea to deal with this. So that may have been a good enough trade for ByuN. The Vikings want to catch these Tempests so badly. However, they're getting really far forward. They've eaten a lot of Psystorm. The Mothership comes on in, pops the cloak. A Time Warp goes down. ByuN volleys that down so easily, though, with the +3 Vikings. His entire army is softened up. It's not from the Stimpak, it's from the Psystorm. And Astrea is pushing ByuN back. ByuN is running out of money. That bio was so overstimmed. Like, ByuN needs a second to heal up his army. However, the Terran is getting very darn broke. Astrea, I think, senses a bit of weakness and is looking for this location. He knows it's there. He hasn't seen the command center. ByuN sees the trouble, though. He floats away, or tries to, but it's not going to be in time. And that is really disastrous for ByuN because he is basically mined out. He can fast mine out this base by dropping mules for a while, but like, those mineral patches are it for the Terran. He's going to need to take a great fight if he wants to win this game. It's not out of the realm of possibility, but the bio's still quite stimmed. Every disruptor shot definitely hurts more than it used to. Now that this game has been dragged out, we're still so neck and neck with the armies, though. 52k lost to 52k resources lost. What a match this is between ByuN and Astrea. I think Astrea may have finally got the checkmate, though, and I think part of it is the fact that ByuN cannot break or harass this base. Look at this, 3 High Templar, pretty much full energy, and, oh, this is like 10 cannons. There's batteries to support them. I love this from Astrea. This is such a good move. ByuN letting Astrea get established here really came back to bite him, because this gives the Protoss time and confidence, and he can just kind of pick and prod at ByuN right now, whereas ByuN, yeah, he's got no resources left. He knows it's pretty much over, and we're seeing ByuN move forward. Lands an EMP on a lot of that force. Now he's just got to deal with the Disruptors, since there's no Psystorm, I believe, with this, and ByuN knows it may be over. The Disruptor does get taken out before that Nova gets off. ByuN is going all in on this attack. He knows he's out of money, he's out of time, he's got to make a big play. He's going uphill into a disadvantageous position. He's eating more and more Psystorms. There's a stim on top of the Psystorm. His bio is going to be so low on HP, and I think Astrea has done it. I talked about how playing Protoss in the late game is a little bit difficult, but Astrea did some great positional play here and was able to, yeah, just out-position ByuN in the end. And well done by the Protoss. He was on the back foot and definitely unsure throughout this game, but in the end, he was able to get ByuN off step, and that put the Terran in a position. He was eating Psystorms quite a bit at the end, more than a Terran with Ghost should have potentially. And honestly, just with all the static defense that he invested in, it really is a momentum thing. Once Protoss gets a base established like this, you can't break it easily as a Terran. Like, the reason why we see Terrans sniping Protoss bases left, right, and center in the pro scene is because they're doing it at better timing. This game was 32 minutes long. Astrea made great use of the map with his macro. He harassed ByuN enough and kept attacking all over the place. And in the end, he took the bases with more resources. Like, ByuN took this base, but Astrea had already mined out a large part of it. Astrea killed it too. And so that just meant Astrea was running out of money later than ByuN. It was darn close at the end, as we see Astrea was pretty much out of money too. But ByuN was out of army and out of luck. Ladies and gentlemen, if you watched all the way to the end of this video and you're not a subscriber, go ahead and subscribe. I think you probably must have enjoyed it to watch 32 minutes of this commentary. Consider becoming a YouTube member if you do want to support this content. It's an easy way to contribute. You can use that join button or the link down below. Leave a comment saying more bots if you're a bots fan but you still watch this. Leave a like, leave a comment, and subscribe. If you haven't clicked that bell icon, you get notified whenever I put up a new video. That's important. And I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much for tuning on in.